Hello. Hi. Hi. Today we're going to talk about Stephen Edward Duren, born in born in 1956. You know him better as Blackie Lawless. Ooh, W.A.S.P, W.A.S.P, W.A.S.P. Now, I am going to cut to the chase here because the last time I listened to W.A.S.P, the Neon God Part 1 and 2 was somewhere around 2008. I was listening to that for about 1 or 2 months, and somehow I just separated from it completely. Blackie Lawless, who he got that name because the town that he grew up with, there was a guy there whose name was Blackie. We read about this a couple of weeks ago, and he just thought, and this guy was a rebellious, and sort of went against the norm. And when Stephen was wanting a stage name, he remembered this guy. He's like, oh, what about Blackie Lawless? Blackie Lawless. So I have some thoughts on this, and I'm sure you'll all agree with me. Probably not. The reassessment of W.A.S.P. Now, I think that W.A.S.P is, I have recorded all this in my head. So this is like take 3, because all this has been recorded in my head, as per usual. You're still tuned in to Wonderful Me. Well, I have to be on record, darlings. Now, W.A.S.P, kind of outdated, immature. The name is has been no longer appealing. It's no longer appealing, the name W.A.S.P. In the 1980s, yes, it was, and it has a few different definitions, and for some odd reason, Blackie Lawless insists on hanging on to the name. Actually, when I found out 2 weeks ago that Blackie Lawless, I was wondering what his real name was, and I found out it was Stephen Duren. Stephen Duren, that's got a ring to it, that's a great name. The Crimson Idol album is when Stephen Duren should have just said, I'm going as Stephen Duren now, the Stephen Duren Project, or the Stephen Duren Band, or simply Stephen Duren. It would have been fantastic. He could have let go of Blackie Lawless. I don't know what it was, if it was the record executives, the record company that said, no, you've got to stay with W.A.S.P, but the Crimson Idol that's when the separation should have taken place. That's when Stephen Duren should have said, I'm Stephen Duren, and I'm going to be Stephen Duren now, and the Crimson Idol would have been Stephen Duren's first, his band, his soul. Blackie Lawless was controlling everything anyway. He controlled W.A.S.P. W.A.S.P is his. It is his, and far better off just saying Stephen Duren Band. Stephen Duren. Way better, far better. Blackie Lawless is a bit of an immature name, and getting on to why, the primary reason why, I can't wait for you all to agree with me. The primary reason, from my perspective, of why W.A.S.P, which I really think he just let go of that name now. It doesn't need to be W.A.S.P. It doesn't hold up very well at all. The reason why W.A.S.P was so attractive was because Stephen Duren has a femininity about him. And I'll tell you exactly why W.A.S.P was popular. Because of the album cover, and because of the way Stephen Duren was photographed in the clip. The angle of the photography, the way that Blackie Lawless did himself up, the way that Stephen did himself up, and even the last command, that album cover is quite interesting. It's interesting, and the W.A.S.P video clips. Stephen takes centre command of the stage because no one is looking at any other member of the band. They're just looking at Blackie Lawless. They're just looking at Stephen, and it's because of the camera angle, the way it was shot, and it gives Stephen a feminine quality to him, a glamorous, interesting, a bit fascinating quality to it. You watch the Blind in Texas clip, or you watch, I can barely remember the names of the other songs. There was one that was shot in the desert. Blackie Lawless, he's in all his leather, he's in his makeup, and there's a bit of a feminine quality about him. And I think that was the actual appeal, like the entire appeal, just the way that camera angle was. And as for the music, whenever I listened to the first album, I didn't connect with it very well. I never connected with it. I never overly got into it. It was just that picture of Blackie Lawless. I was like, he's kind of interesting, and his voice is interesting. I remember the Headless Children. I just couldn't get into that album. Couldn't get it. I tried to like it, and as many times as I tried to listen to it, I just was not interested in the Headless Children. The Crimson Idol album, which I have no desire to go back to. I don't have any desire to go back to any W.A.S.P albums at all. W.A.S.P are a band who Stephen Duren, that's all anybody was looking at. They weren't looking at the others. They weren't even looking at Chris Holmes. They were just the others. The other people in W.A.S.P had very little stage presence. W.A.S.P came to Sydney in 2008, I think. Blackie Lawless came to Sydney in 2000 under the name of W.A.S.P. It'd be far better if Blackie Lawless just said, I'm Stephen Duren. Stephen Duren sounds so much better. Stephen Duren came to Sydney, to the Metro Theatre in 2008, and he was wearing these white boots. The other guys in the band, great musicians, but kind of invisible. He was just looking at, and not to mention, this new tour, that microphone skeleton thing is a huge distraction. I don't think it should be there. I think it's a distraction. What do I like about Stephen Duren? When those videos go up on YouTube of the 10 fans or so that get to ask him a question, I think Stephen Duren is interesting. He's interesting, and I think that that Blackie Lawless actually uses his real name for everything else. I think he separates the two. I think he separates the two. But when he does those videos, and people ask the fans ask, I think they're interesting. But the music isn't anymore. The music isn't, and he uses tapes. He's admitted that he uses tapes. When I attended a W.A.S.P concert, no, not at all. I thought that the 2008 Blackie Lawless concert in Sydney it was at the Metro. It was interesting, but kind of forgettable. I remember at times like the white boots were good. He's got a stage presence, and it only just works. What doesn't work on what Stephen Duren is presently doing is that skeleton microphone on stage, which you can't even see him. You cannot see him, and I think it may be there as trying to hide his lip syncing. I have very little to no interest in the early rock. I was thinking about this yesterday and thinking about Love Machine and Wild Child and Blind in Texas, and I was thinking about those songs, and I was like, do I want to hear them ever again? No, I don't care less about them. I've been listening to the Scorpions a lot. I discovered the Scorpions last year. They're amazing. With my sentimental favourite band is Guns N' Roses. But I've got to stop saying that, because all the new Guns N' Roses songs are shit. They're not good, they're underwhelming. Guns N' Roses have 3 albums. Appetite, Use Illusion 1 and 2. Chinese Democracy is the Axl Rose project. It's Axl's solo project. And we're getting too little, too late. Guns N' Roses should have 5 or at least 6 albums. Axl should have 5 or 6 solo albums from 1995 leading up to 2013. Should have done at least 5 or 6 solo albums. And Guns N' Roses, when they reunited in 2014, should have done 2 it's 10 years, so you should have 3 or 4 albums out of them by now. So I don't have a favourite band, but I can tell you that I love Scorpions. Scorpions' early stuff, Fly to the Rainbow, Lonesome Crow, Love at First Sting, fantastic. W.A.S.P are completely reliant on the image Blackie Lawless presents, and I have little to no. The Crimson Idol was an interesting album. I have little to no interest in revisiting the W.A.S.P catalogue, all based on image, bit of musicianship in there, all based on Blackie Lawless and how he looks on camera and how he looks in photographs. And I actually looked back on 1 or 2 of them yesterday. I was like, quite immature actually. This would appeal to a 15-year-old, which was how old I was when I discovered W.A.S.P, and through Hit Parader and Circus Magazine and Metal Edge and MTV and Rage, because we had, here in Sydney, Australia, we still have Rage, and so I like, occasionally I like to watch when it pops up on my YouTube homepage of Blackie Lawless backstage with fans talking. I like that. It's interesting. Do I want to hear the music anymore? No, not interested. Don't care. And it's just all based on The Last Command, the album. How that's what attracted the attention, the music itself. And what was it, the Electric Circus? All just based on how Stephen Duren is photographed in a photograph shoot. The photographer gets a certain angle, takes the photo, Stephen looks good in it, it sells. And it has a bit of a feminine quality about him, a glamorous quality, and it sells. The music itself, I never did the first W.A.S.P album and the second W.A.S.P album, I tried to get into them. I never could. I just never could. And my music taste is eclectic. And that's, yeah, when I discovered that Blackie Lawless felt the other one of it, it was about 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4 weeks ago. I was like, what's his real name? Stephen Duren. Stephen Duren. That's a great name. It could be the Stephen Duren Project, Stephen Duren Band, just Stephen Duren. And he should have done that from Crimson Idol onwards. Let go of the name W.A.S.P, or keep it as his own copyright, and it should have been either of 2 things, Blackie Lawless or Stephen Duren. And I just think it would be far better off with Stephen Duren. because the W.A.S.P albums are Blackie Lawless, Stephen Duren solo projects, nothing more. They're his solo projects. And the other guys in the band become virtually invisible. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Stephen Duren. And that's my thoughts on Stephen Duren. Just Blackie Lawless. I mean, it's an interesting name, but I think it's a bit old now, maybe a bit immature. And the W.A.S.P name is definitely immature. It's past. It's past. Everyone knows that it's Stephen Duren controlled completely, all the way. And anyway, yeah. Look, I've got it just here. I'm on Google them over here. Where's that from? Wolf of Wall Street. That's my insight into Stephen Duren.